What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2 days away from round 2 of their 2024 battle with the Cleveland Browns, and by the day, by the hour, by the minute, seemingly, this rivalry is getting red hot. And honestly, if the Cleveland Browns had a better record, especially if you ask George Pickens, they had a better record, this might be the biggest game of the year, simply trash talk alone. We're diving into George Pickens and Greg Newsome going back and forth once again. A questionable injury report for the Pittsburgh Steelers that has plenty of good news, some concerning news heading into Sunday, and it is Friday, so we will make our picks because, well, we're back. And I will say, Nick, last week, I predicted a Steelers win. I was way off on the score. I think my score prediction was 24-21, and I said it was going to be a low-scoring defensive battle. That's what I said. I was wrong. I was way off, but feeling good about this week. And as we do every day, we'll dive into all your questions. So make sure you're tossing them in the chat throughout the show. Nick, it's a snowy one here again today in the Berg. It's going to be cold all weekend long until Sunday afternoon. It's supposed to break through. I don't know who gets the advantage there, but it won't be as miserable as Cleveland was on Thursday night. How you feel, my friend?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be an 82-point performance on Sunday. So I'm feeling pretty good about where the Steelers stand right now, especially considering the fact that they're heading into a home game against a division opponent versus on the road on a Thursday night. All those mitigating circumstances that we talked about 2 weeks ago, they're all gone. This is a straight up, had a full week of preparation game against the Cleveland Browns. So I'm feeling pretty confident in the Steelers' chances. And honestly, all the stuff that's coming out of the locker rooms, I'm excited to see what goes down on Sunday.
Yeah, it is. It'll be a full-on fist fight. It is crazy. And this is George Pickens, Greg Newsome, without anybody talking about how Myles Garrett readdressed the TJ situation. Was like, I was just joking. You were not joking, pal. You went on a 2-minute rant after that game about how you are him. That is not. There was no laughter. Excuse me. In that rant, you were 100% serious on TJ owes me an apology. Now you're backtracking it, but that is not the talk of the town in Pittsburgh this week. We'll start with George Pickens, but in a different angle here before we dive into all of the talk between him and Greg Newsome. He is the only person on the active roster. Montravius Adams has been ruled out with a knee injury, but he remains on IR. That the Pittsburgh have an injury designation for heading into the weekend. He is questionable with a hamstring injury. That happened today. It was the first time that he did deal with that hamstring injury all week long. So it means that he probably either suffered it late in practice yesterday or during practice today. Obviously concerning. I will say that somebody who is talking the way George is talking in the locker room afterwards does not strike me as somebody who will not play on Sunday. I also think George Pickens, much like Najee Harris, much like many other people in this locker room, until proven otherwise, seems to be invincible. I mean, he has fallen in ways and tangled his body in ways that everybody watched and went, oh, that was a snap knee, and got right back up like nothing ever happened. So I think he's going to be good. I still think it's alarming that it popped up today and that it did happen today. They'll go through a walkthrough tomorrow. Massive blow for the Steelers if he does not play. But again, until they rule him out, I have a hard time believing George Pickens is going to be a name that anybody has to concern themselves with for right now. On the other side of that, Alex Highsmith is back, which is huge and I think overlooked on this injury report. This means a 3-headed monster is here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have been waiting for this 3-headed monster all season long. And I expect massive things. I mean, we talked what's more likely yesterday. I think Alex Highsmith is in for a major game against the Cleveland Browns. A scary game if you're Jameis Winston. And then on the offensive side of things, Calvin Austin remains in concussion protocol, but has been a full participant in practice all week long. and told me, along with a couple other media members today, that he's good to go. He's playing on Sunday. He has no reservations about not playing on Sunday. He feels like he'll be out there. So the Steelers avoid a pretty significant blow there. He said that the first hit compared to the second hit was definitely worse. And he said that he saw it, like he saw it coming, but he thought the defender was going to play the ball. He was like, oh, okay, we're just both going for the ball. So the impact will be, aggressive, but it won't be targeted. So it'll be less impactful. And then he said, next thing you know, he just got hit. And he was like, oh my God, that was crazy. So the second hit definitely looked worse than the first one, but I would imagine that first blow was a tough one. Pickens questionable, Alex Highsmith and Calvin Austin good to go. Unless you feel differently, do you have any concerns about George being questionable?
I do have concerns, but not necessarily for this week. I think that this is a matchup the Steelers can win, even if George Pickens is limited within the game plan. Going forward is what worries me, because a hamstring injury, a soft tissue injury, especially one that pops up late in the week like this, if it lingers going into that stretch of Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs to close out the season, that's when it's concerning, because this all year has been the biggest scare for any Pittsburgh Steelers fan is, what if George Pickens goes down? He hasn't gone down, but seeing him on the injury report does bring cause for concern if you're somebody who's backing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, maybe not this week, but going forward, that's something that you definitely want to monitor, because if he goes down late in the season, they're not going to have a lot of firepower for the eventual playoff push and the playoff run that they'd like to go on. He is the biggest piece to that offensive game plan, especially throughout the air.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And you bring up a good point. This is what everybody feared all season long, is what happens if George isn't there. Well, I'll tell you this. Everybody talked all week long when it was Calvin. This is Mike Williams' week. He's got to have a big week. If George is limited in any capacity, that is who needs to step up. This is not Van Jefferson. This is not Calvin Austin. This is not Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek. This is Mike Williams. This is what you were brought here to do. You were brought here to be another name that everybody can rely on, to be a big piece to this offense. Now you're going to get that opportunity. Are you going to take advantage of it? I don't know if I have an answer to that. I don't know if I'm sitting here saying yes or no, but you're right. This is what the Pittsburgh Steelers worried about all season long. This is why they were so aggressive in pursuing wide receivers all year long. They didn't get one. They got Mike Williams, who's done almost nothing. I mean, you do have to be a little bit worried. That being said, this week, I don't know if he's going to miss this game. I have a hard time believing he's going to. And then as long as he's healthy, which is a big if, the Steelers will avoid a very scary situation, but hopefully a wake-up call for the offense and Mike Williams at the same time. Let's talk George Pickens and Greg Newsome and the trash talk that is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns, which I love, okay? I love that this rivalry is red hot right now. I love that this is old school punch in the face AFC North football. Literally, like not figuratively, not nothing. This is literal punch you in the face football. We already got it. We're going to get more of it, and it has not stopped. The best thing the NFL could have done is put these two games 2 weeks apart. I mean, they probably would have rather done it with Baltimore or Cincinnati. Instead, they did it with Cleveland, and it worked out beautifully. I don't know who saw it coming, but whoever suggested, let's put them on Thursday night, and then 2 weeks later, they'll play again. Round of applause for you, my friend, because you killed it. This is the most trash talk the NFL has had all year long in recent memory, if we're going to be honest. This is crazy how much these people are talking. And it's not slowing down. Today, I was standing right there when George Pickens tried to reflect every single question about him and the penalties and guys getting in his head and so on and so forth. And I think he did a good job, because you have to ask the questions. That's part of the job. It's what fans want to hear, obviously. But at the same time, it's got to be tough to be on the other side of that microphone and to be asked like, hey, dude, you're a problem. How do you go about not being a problem? Because how do you have an answer to that? The answer is just, I'm not going to be a problem anymore. That's actions speak louder than words. We'll find out. But then he was asked, if he was going to meet Greg Newsome on the field, or if they were going to talk pregame or postgame, or if they've talked since the game. And he looked Chris Adamski right in the eyes, and he said, "Who? I don't even know who that is." Well, Greg Newsome came back, and he had quite a bit of words to say on this one. This one, while George's was short, sweet, and definitely shots fired, Greg Newsome's was a little bit more drawn out. Nick, I'll toss it to you. Let's show the people.
Trash talk or anything like that. What happened in the first game?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy, man. We say it in our room: smart, tough, accountable, resilient team. And I'm all about the team. Obviously, he's a guy that cares more so about himself, and you can see that in the penalties that he causes. And for me, my job is to try to do whatever I can to help the team win. So there's never going to be no one-on-one battle for me. My battle is to try to help my team get the win.
Does that feel you any different than normal?
Nah, that's a like I said, he does that type of stuff all the time. There'll never be a man that ever can fuel me in any type of way. So definitely not.
Shout out to Greg Newsome, man, because the longer I have covered the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns, the more this guy keeps talking. Like you could talk George Pickens all you want. You could bring him up and say that he talks a lot of smack, which he does. Greg Newsome is constantly getting into battles, constantly. And it's not just against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's all the time. I think Greg Newsome versus George Pickens is one of the underrated rivalries in sports right now, where these two actually hate each other, and it's hitting a boiling point. And quite frankly, like I said, I love it. I love it. I got no issue with George saying, I don't know who that is. I got no issue with Greg Newsome coming back at it. I expect full-blown fists to be flying in this Sunday matchup, which is not good. Nobody ever wants to see somebody get kicked out of a game, but it is giving me Andre Johnson versus, what was his name? The corner for Tennessee. It's giving me those. It's giving me that memories. It's giving me, I don't know, any fist fight that ever had. Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter Sr., against the entire Cleveland Browns bench pregame. That's the vibes that I'm getting in this one. It's Cortland Finnegan. Yes. Andre Johnson, Cortland Finnegan. Like that's the vibes I'm getting here. That's what we're going here. I think it's going to be an all-out brawl. I do think that the trash talk gives the Pittsburgh Steelers an advantage because the Browns are talking, and they're talking, and they're talking, and they're talking, but they're on their high horse right now. That's the thing, is they right now feel that they are better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's very apparent in the way that they're going about these words, the way that Greg Newsome is talking, the way that Myles Garrett is talking. You just feel that the Cleveland Browns feel they are a better football team. They have the Steelers number. Outside of George Pickens, not Greg Newsome, George Pickens, nobody in Pittsburgh is talking. Nobody in Pittsburgh is talking smack. Nobody in Pittsburgh is talking about the last matchup. Nothing. I even asked Dan Moore, I said, hey, short turnaround doesn't mean anything. And he's like maybe, but probably not. He's like, this is just a new game, and we have to approach it as a new game. I think it gives the Pittsburgh Steelers a pretty big advantage just hearing the words that everybody's saying. Maybe outside of George Pickens, but George Pickens plays pretty well when people talk smack about him. You got thoughts on a wild week of trash talk for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns?
We had a very similar conversation a couple weeks back when Myles Garrett started the whole defensive player of the year. It's in my house, it runs through me conversation. And I said, you know what? I love it, especially when you back it up, you win the game, and you become an absolute monster in the midst of that game. Both teams have now talked their trash, specifically George Pickens on the Steelers and most of the Cleveland Browns defense.
Yes.
Back it up. Back it up on the field, back it up on Sunday. And once you do, you can go back out there and talk some more. And I will say not a word, but if you go out there and George Pickens has a repeat of last year when they went up against the Jacksonville Jaguars and there was a lot of pregame talk and then Pickens got shut down. He had a touchdown late, but he got shut down for the rest of that game and they lost.
Yeah.
That's when I have an issue with it. You got to back it up. Now, his hamstring injury, is that going to be a built-in excuse? I don't know. But if you're talking after that news is released, you need to back it up on Sunday. If you do, then I absolutely love it. If you don't, that's when you're going to make yourself look bad. So again, back it up on Sunday, and then we'll have a conversation. Because if you do, shoot, go out there and talk your stuff again after the game.
I agree. I don't disagree. I'll ask a tough question, and I don't want to ask this question, but I feel I have to. Does not being able to back up the trash talk, would that affect your thoughts on him being a wide receiver one?
Yes, because it's happened already. Because if that happens,
I had to ask
more than once, as you like to say, 2 is a trend, 3 is a trend. Other teams going to know that, hey, all you have to do is get inside his head, and then you can shut him down. Jags did it last year. Browns, let's see if they can do it this year. If they do it successfully, other teams are going to take note, and all of a sudden, that's going to be a target on your back. And that's not a target that you want as a starting wide receiver, that, hey, all you have to do is get in his head, and he can't perform. Whereas some of these other guys, you try to get in their head, and all they do is go out there and get better. So I'm expecting Pickens to kind of answer the bell. If he doesn't, that's when it becomes a problem. But yeah, if he can't get it done after talking all this trash, that becomes a little bit worrisome for me.
I'll be honest. When me and you and shout out Stephen Thompson were talking smack last season, he played pretty well. So maybe, just maybe, I'm not going to be the one, but maybe we call some people at the Fan, or we call other podcasts. Chris Carter, if you're watching this, you talk a little smack. You know what I mean? Do your due diligence, help a hand, and just give the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit of a boost, because that seemingly works every single time. I agree with you. I do think that George has to back it up. I think Greg Newsome has to back it up at the same time.
I think Grant Delpit.
Yeah. I think Grant Delpit has to back it up at the same time. Like, that's where we're at, is you're going to talk all this smack. All this smack's going to be talked. Okay, who's showing up on Sunday? I will say George is talking much less than everybody in Cleveland, which, kudos to George. But you got to back it up. It's got to go both ways. And I think just all around, it helps the Steelers solely because it's only George talking, or even not even talking, but like a little bit of talking. It's everybody in Cleveland. It is everybody in Cleveland. So the pressure's on them. They're adding bulletin board material after bulletin board material. Mm-hmm. The Steelers they're adding a little bit. They're saying this, they're saying that. Greg Newsome definitely now has a chip on his shoulder, and he's a good corner. But like, Najee's not talking smack. TJ's not talking smack.
And you even mentioned it. George bit his tongue through most of that media availability, and then it slipped out at the end there. And honestly, that goes more towards the Steelers' frame of mind going into this week and what they've been told about this week versus him coming out there and saying it from the beginning. So even George was trying to be reserved in this.
I agree. I think everybody's head in Pittsburgh is in the right spot right now. Just go out there and, like, just to be quite frank, beat some ass. Like, that's what they're looking to do. The Pittsburgh Steelers are looking out to go out there, put a whooping on the Browns, and let all their talking or all their walking do the talking. And does that mean that George isn't going to get flagged, or, there isn't going to be some issues? No, I would guess that there's going to be. But I don't think the rest of the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be as hot as some of these Browns guys. And I think that puts it in the Pittsburgh Steelers' favor. Let's talk some Arthur Smith real fast before we make our picks and dive into all your questions in this one. Arthur Smith has been named to two head coaching jobs in recent weeks or recent days at this point. And it brings up a pretty big question for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is, what is your expectations moving forward for Arthur Smith? He was obviously linked to UNC. He was super open about that, and shout out for being open on that. Like, I told my wife on Thanksgiving, I was like really not in the mood to go to the facility. I woke up, I had a good morning. She was making food. I was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to work. I want to be here with you. It's the holiday. Decided to go to work. Turned out immensely in my favor. Why? Because Arthur Smith got super honest about North Carolina and how he loves Pittsburgh. Well, since then, he's been named a candidate for the Bears. He's been named a candidate for the Saints, and he's been named a dark horse candidate for the New York Jets. There will be others. You got to imagine maybe Tennessee, possibly New England. I don't know who else is going to need a head coach in 2025. There will be others. There will be many others. You got to think Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, all those names get hired somewhere, unless Belichick goes to college. What is the list? Where does it end for you with Arthur Smith? And do you expect that if Arthur Smith is, hey, it's the Jets or it's nothing, would leave the Pittsburgh Steelers for the New York Jets at this point in his career?
I mean, we saw Ben Johnson do it last year where he was the top guy on the market. And I'm not saying that's what Arthur Smith is going to be, but he is going to be an attractive name, especially if Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense can continue to click. He's going to be one of the more attractive names on the head coaching cycle. And there's only 32 of these jobs. So even if it's the Jets, Arthur Smith is going to want to get back in that chair at some point. You have to imagine. But if it is the Jets, we talked about it at length. Yesterday, you were asked a question. Who's the next to get a division championship? The Browns or the Jets? And you're like, oh, well, the Jets. Oof. And you went with the Browns to win the AFC freaking North. That's where the Jets are as a franchise. So that's the team that I look at, and I'm like, listen, I understand that there's only 32 of these jobs, but Arthur Smith isn't hurting, right? He was going to the Maldives after he got fired. He's not hurting. And if he wants a better opportunity, there's reason to say that he might want to stay in Pittsburgh and wait for that opportunity, a la what Ben Johnson did. And secondly, what is in the water at Chapel Hill that all of a sudden everybody wants to go coach the UNC Tar Heels as a football team, maybe a basketball team, but the Tar Heels as a football team, that's getting Bill Belichick. That's getting Arthur Smith. That's hilarious to me that's all of a sudden one of the best coaching jobs available outside of NFL jobs.
Yes, I think the North Carolina thing, and I've actually had some conversations. Just I'm obviously not calling people with Bill Belichick scoops, but I'm having conversations with people who have Bill Belichick scoops, and the thought there is just like Bill's kind of being the like narcissistic boyfriend who's like, hey, I'm gonna flirt with this girl, so that you give me more attention, because he feels that he kind of got shunned from the NFL without getting an opportunity. I agree with you. I look at Arthur Smith as a guy who a year from now could have a lot more opportunities than he does right now, especially if the Steelers offense continues to get better and the Steelers as a whole continue to get better. You're not going to the Jets. He's just not. Like, let's be honest. If he's not going to North Carolina, his alum, his alma mater, a team that is usually pretty good, and I get it. Like, the ACC is still good, I guess, but it's not the SEC. It's not this prominent, crazy, oh my gosh, you can't win here conference in college football. Like, North Carolina's got shot. I look at the Jets as a way worse option. The Bears are as good as it gets. That's the best job you could get in football right now as a new coach, because you have Caleb Williams, and that's really all you need. When it comes to the rest of them, the Saints, maybe. The Titans, maybe. But I don't know. The Raiders will keep AP. But the Giants, maybe. But you're not going there. I think the list is short. I think it's Chicago and maybe a team with a developed quarterback that he feels comfortable with. Besides that, he's probably staying in Pittsburgh. I agree with you. And I think what works for the Steelers in this, and I want Arthur Smith to go do whatever he wants. I want him to be very successful. He's a great guy. And, I'm pro player, I'm pro coach. Like, go be as good as you could get in this. Again, like, I can't give the guy enough credit. His dad founded FedEx. FedEx. If my dad founded FedEx, I wouldn't be talking to you guys right now. I would be hanging out in like some ocean on some island that nobody knows about except for me and the other trillionaires of the world. That's what we would be doing. Instead, he's working on Thanksgiving, talking to guys like me about UNC. Crazy. I think the Steelers making the playoffs and guys like Mike Vrabel, guys like Bill Belichick, getting to interview for these jobs ahead of time will work in the Steelers' favor, because those prominent jobs are going to get filled. And then guys like Arthur Smith are going to have to wait, because the Steelers aren't going to be like, oh, yeah, you could go get interviewed right now in the middle of a playoff push where we're trying to break a 7-year drought. No. And if they do, they're nuts. And all the criticism needs to be put on them, because I'm pro coach. I'm not pro go let your coach leave in the middle of a playoff week. That ain't happening. So I look at this and say it's in the Steelers' favor that they're a good football team right now. I also don't think that the Jets are going to be the team that steals Arthur Smith away because I don't think anybody wants to go to the Jets right now. I look at that as just a team that you're going to obviously hire somebody, but it's just going to be somebody who needs an opportunity, not somebody who wants an opportunity.
Yeah, the one name that kind of sticks out to me is kind of an Eric Bieniemy, who's been searching for that opportunity and has been turned down time and time again. And honestly, I thought he did a pretty decent job at UCLA this season, and he got fired, which was preordained so he could get back into the NFL coaching cycle for everybody that's overreacting to that. But that's the type of coach that wants to prove himself and has a track record that I would think goes to the New York Jets, whereas Arthur Smith is in a position right now that he can stay, a la Ben Johnson, a la, name is escaping me, but defensive coordinator for Aaron Glenn for the Detroit Lions. Similar situation. The guy is going to get a lot of head coaching looks, but if the job that he wants isn't there, there's no problem in going back to Detroit because odds are he's going to have just as good of a season next year, and he's going to have even more opportunity at potentially better landing spots. So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. A lot of things could change between now and the end of the season, and a lot of jobs will open up between now and the end of the season, or at least the end of the playoff season. But Arthur Smith's name is going to be tossed out there, especially if the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to do things like they did against the Cincinnati Bengals, because the more 400-yard games Russell Wilson has, the more you revive that man's career. Everybody said, oh, you change Justin Fields. You make Justin Fields a franchise quarterback. Everybody wants you again. You make Russell Wilson an MVP candidate when he was done, dead in the water. Everybody's going to watch you again. So his name will be one to watch. But right now I'm feeling pretty good that there's a good chance he sticks around in Pittsburgh at least one more season. All right. With that said, let's dive into it. It's week 14. It's Friday. You know what we're doing. We're making picks here. Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, round 2, red hot. So much smack talk that you can't even wrap your head around it right now. We're talking about a billion other things all week long. We're talking Jamar Chase getting traded, Deontay Johnson getting suspended. It has been an absolutely nuts week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we're here. It's Friday afternoon, and we're going to make some picks. Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Acrisure Stadium. Supposed to be a good one on the north side. I was talking to Mr. Rooney yesterday. Today. I don't remember. It was one of these days.
Time is a flat circle. Yes.
It really is. It really is. I think you're just starstruck whenever you get a good, long conversation with Mr. Rooney. But he told me it's going to be a good one. And when he said it, I said, I don't even need to look at the weather app. I'm wearing shorts. Shout out. All right, week 14, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns. Let's dive into it. What do we got? What's the spread?
If you dive over to our buddies at DraftKings, they have a 6.5 point spread in favor of the home Pittsburgh Steelers, and over-under of 43.5. So again, not quite the 82 points we saw last week, but a 43.5 over-under and a 6.5 point line in favor of the Steelers.
Yeah. So, okay. So just shout out DraftKings, because last week I actually won. It was pretty awesome. It's been a long time, I feel like, since I've actually won some parlays. Won like 3 in a row. I actually finished the day, started the day with $40 in the account, ended the day with like 160 in the account. It was a beautiful time. And a big part of that was taking the over like 4 times in that game. It was 46, 52, 60, hit them all. I was like, we'll keep riding it if we want to keep riding it. But this week, I'm not feeling 85 points. I'm not. No. I'm feeling a higher scoring game than we imagine, but I'm not feeling 85 points. I look at it like this. Jameis Winston's going to throw the ball 40 times. It's going to happen. Chances are in that 40 times, he's going to throw a touchdown or 2. He's probably also going to throw an interception or 2, but he's going to throw a touchdown or 2. I'm saying Pittsburgh Steelers walk away with this one. I mean, I felt that all week. But the trash talk has gotten so hot right now that you got to feel that the Pittsburgh Steelers have the upper hand in this. On top of the Cleveland Browns already playing their Super Bowl and then coming back down to earth against the Denver Broncos and being a team that, well, you don't lose to. The Steelers just lost to once. I'm saying Pittsburgh Steelers 35. Cleveland Browns 21. That's what I'm going with this one. I don't think the Browns get smoked, which, 14 points is definitely a big loss, but I've made crazier predictions this season, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers go off, and I think that the defense holds this to a place where it's a large enough margin of victory to say the Pittsburgh Steelers won convincingly without it being, oh my gosh, the Browns are dead, because I don't think the Browns are dead. I mean, they are dead, but not in this one, and they'll score some points. I'm going 35-24, and I'll toss this one out here too. Shout out Marlon Lewis. George Pickens, 8 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't know the yards. I don't know the catches. I'm going George Pickens, 2 touchdowns. George Pickens, 2 in this game. One of them on Greg Newsome. And it could get real bad after that one, but one of them on Greg Newsome. I'm going 35-21 Cleveland, or Pittsburgh Steelers.
You know, I'm with you on a lot of these things. The one thing I'm not with you on is how many points that you're putting on the board for both teams in this. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense at home, very, very good. Very, very good. So good, in fact, that they're only allowing 15.8 points per game at home this season. And because of that, I'm going to say the Browns don't even reach that. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers putting up 27, not 30, but 27 against the Browns defense. And I have the Steelers defense holding Cleveland and Jameis Winston in a little bit of a revenge spot, because they were taken up and down the field during that snow globe game. I think in a little bit of a revenge spot, they hold them to 13 points, closing this out at 27-13, covering the spread. And I believe that would be 40 points, hitting the under on this one as well.
Okay. You're one of the, nobody likes rooting for the under. Nobody likes rooting for
I don't like rooting for the under. It just so happened to be there. I wasn't playing it, but it just so happens to be there.
You got to make the pick and then you go with the rest of it. I agree. I like that one. I think it could happen. You're not saying, so you're saying 1 touchdown in this one for Cleveland, huh?
I'm saying 1 touchdown for Cleveland. I think the Steelers defense, especially with Alex Highsmith back, Joey Porter kind of on the bad side of 2 back-to-back performances, I think the Steelers defense is in for a big one on Sunday.
Let me ask this. What's your over-under on sacks?
Ooh, for the Steelers or for the Browns?
No, Steelers.
I'll give you over-under 3.5.
I'm going over. What would be your prediction?
My prediction would be the over on that one. I think Alex Highsmith, I agree with you, takes 2. I think TJ's going to get to the quarterback, and it might be more than once. And then somebody on that interior offensive or defensive line, Cam might get one. Keanu might get a big one, because this feels like a Keanu type game. Got a little bit of shine on Hard Knocks. Maybe this is the kind of the follow-up to that. So
true.
I'm thinking it's a big day for the Steelers defensive front, especially because they didn't have a great day against the Browns 2 weeks ago, and that Browns offensive line allows a lot of sacks, especially with Jameis Winston behind him. I don't think he's going to have the elusiveness that he did a couple weeks ago, and I think the Steelers get home a lot in this one.
Yeah, would love to see it. Would love to see it. And people are going to be bitching hard on Wednesday morning when Tuesday comes around and everybody's like, they're just showing the Steelers once again, nothing but the Steelers, as if they're not playing AFC North teams constantly, and everybody else is doing absolutely nothing. You're either losing or you're not playing. Quite frankly, you need to put the winning team in there. I like your score prediction. We'll see what happens. I got 35-21. Nick's got 27-13. Both of them big wins for the Pittsburgh Steelers. On the other side of this break, we're going to answer all of your questions, so make sure that you're tossing them in the chat. But first, we got a quick word from our boys over at Game Time. Football season is on fire right now, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they're looking pretty good, and I don't think there's anything that brings more excitement right now than thinking about going to the game. And right now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. Game Time Picks features out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, round 2 is red hot, but you could go to Christmas Day, Philadelphia, if you're really feeling feisty, in Cincinnati and Baltimore, both on the radar and the upcoming schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me tell you why Game Time is incredible. They have a couple of things. First, the Game Time Picks, which curates to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc., all in pricing, which shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views to get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you ever buy. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time ticket coverage, which means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Shout out our boys over at Game Time. All right, we're diving into questions. Make sure that you toss them in the chat. We'll get to all of them before we head out of here. Nick, I'm going to toss it to you. What do we got?
Yeah, all due respect to everybody in the comment section, but I'm going to hijack this to start. And I want your opinion because we have a play-in potential game tonight for the college football playoff. UNLV and Boise State up on the blue turf. Boise State's favored by 4.5. Do you think Ashton Ginty punches his ticket to the first ever college football playoff of 12 teams?
I do. I mean, you got to think that this is it. Everybody's going to be watching. This is how most people are going to spend their Friday nights, at a bar, eating wings, drinking beer, and watching Boise State football. And I mean, that's the dream. You know what I'm saying? That's what everyone wants to be doing on a Friday night. We watch football for Boise State, UNLV, Friday night, beers, wings, buddies. That's what we do here. Even me, I'll be with the cats. We'll be hanging out, doing the same things. And I'm thrilled for it. I'm going Boise State. I think Ashton Ginty goes off tonight. Mm-hmm. And on the this is the big screen. He's had some big games this season, and by big games I mean big audiences, big televised games. This is the biggest one he's got. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going Boise State.
Yeah, as much as I want to see Boise State, I kind of want to see a little bit of chaos, because if UNLV wins, UNLV is going to be in the college football playoff, which nobody in their mother, even coming into this week, whenever UNLV is literally in a win and you're in situation. I haven't heard a single person say, "Oh, UNLV in the college football playoff." Nobody has said that. So I kind of want to see the chaos.
Could you imagine if UNLV makes it in and Alabama does not?
Yeah, that would be. Well, I mean, hey, listen, thems be the rules. Sorry, Bama.
Nuts.
Let's go over to some of these questions here, starting with Jacob Kennedy, who says, where do you think the Steelers cornerback group stacks up against the rest of the league? I know Porter has plenty of issues, but I only see maybe Philly or Green Bay that has a better secondary group.
Yeah, I got no issues with Joey Porter. I know that he's got some penalties going on right now, but the Denver Broncos gave up 265 yards against Jerry Jeudy, which meant his 85 yards the week before, nothing. Terrible game. Yeah, it was awful. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a wide receiver play worse than 85 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's obviously a joke. But I look at this and say Joey Porter Jr. is still one of the best upcoming corners in the NFL. Dante Jackson, when he's good, is really good. And I think Cam Sutton is going to get more and more playing time here late with Corey Trice coming back from injury, Beanie Bishop still being around. It just makes you feel that this is complete. I mean, Phillies is dangerous when they're healthy. I think Green Bay's is dangerous when they're healthy. I mean, I think there's a couple of teams that are real dangerous when they're healthy. Kansas City's is red hot when they're good. Tennessee should have been good, but they weren't. But they should have been good. There are teams. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are right there, and like the bottom of that top tier list of cornerback groups in the NFL.
Let's jump over to JB, who says, could Nick Herbig make a Alex Highsmith trade possible?
The answer is yes, he could. Will it happen? Probably not. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers want to get rid of Alex Highsmith. They have to pay TJ Watt this offseason, which makes things complicated. But I don't think they want to get rid of Alex Highsmith. I think Alex Highsmith is a very valuable piece to the Steelers defense. I think he's a valuable piece to Nick Herbig's growth. And I think having a three-headed monster is what the Steelers, I mean, right now they have four guys that they all feel are starter quality in Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, and Preston Smith. And then they have Jeremiah Moon, who they also feel confident in. That's what they want. They want a dozen pass rushers on the outside. I don't think unless it somehow benefits them, that would be the only way. If they could pull off some crazy wide receiver trade or some crazy quarterback trade to make it happen, and Alex Highsmith's the name they have to give up. If they can't pay TJ Watt and Russell Wilson because of Alex Highsmith, maybe they pull it off then. But unless it's an absolute need, I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers actually doing it.
Let's jump over to 9 Mil Gaming, who says this will be by far George Pickens' biggest mental game this weekend. Do you think he'll be able to overcome the Browns' antics and trash talk trying to throw him off his game?
If I'm going to be honest, no. I still think he has a great game, but I still think there's going to be penalties. I still think he's going to do something stupid. I mean, you have to just predict that at this point until proven otherwise. It's the same thing. Like, do you expect Joey Porter Jr. to get a flag? Yes. The answer is yes. I don't think it's going to ruin the game, but I do expect George Pickens to kind of let his emotions get the best of him, and that until proven otherwise. Like, this is not a one-game occurrence. This is not even a one-season occurrence. This is multiple years now where it's the same stuff. So until it stops, you have to expect it to keep happening. So I'm going to say yes, he does let his emotions get the best of him. I expect some flags, but I don't think it ruins the game for the Steelers.
Let's jump over to Jacob again, who has a second comment here. More importantly, which jersey should I buy? I love these ones. Peyton Wilson or Mason McCormick? My Devin Bush jersey did not work out so great.
Man, dude, how many Devin Bush jerseys were bought and just never even got a shot? It's a travesty. It's a travesty.
Duct tape and the word Porter will do wonders for that jersey.
Porter.
Initial Joey Porter, senior.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, hold up, did I miss Devin Bush's number or something? I swore he was 55. Yeah. This is I'd go Mason McCormick simply because I think Mason McCormick right now is a lightning rod. This dude is electric at all times. He is my favorite player of the Steelers draft class. Like, without question, actually, he's my favorite player in the Pittsburgh Steelers draft class. He's awesome. He's definitely a star in the making, and he is incredibly fun to watch during and after the game or after the play. So I'd go Mason McCormick, but I think Peyton Wilson's also a stud who's going to be here for a while, making a lot of plays. So I think that's a good one too. But if you're going longevity, risk of leaving the team, and just fun to watch right now, Mason McCormick, I think, checks all three boxes.
Let's jump over to Richard Hunt, who says, does Arthur Smith pull a Dick LeBeau, but hopefully wait for Tomlin to retire?
I don't think so. I don't think Arthur Smith. When does who retires first?
Is there writing on the wall at all for Mike Tomlin? So
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what are we going to wait? Is Arthur Smith going to retire before Mike Tomlin? Like, that could be a real thing. I would say no here. The Dick LeBeau situation was very unique, strange, I would say, especially in Pittsburgh, where like your coaches are just so well respected in so many ways.
Let's go to James, who says, hey guys, first time commenting on the channel. Question: do y'all think we'll ever be blessed with the bumblebees again?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I know some players, I've said it a number of times on this show recently, that players want those bumblebees, but I'm pretty sure everybody in that front office is well aware how bad everybody looks in those bumblebees, and because of that, they aren't going to break them back out. I think the bumblebees are gone for now. I could see in 10 years or something, the Steelers being like, guess what's back? The bumblebees, and people losing their minds. So I would say forever, no. For, the foreseeable future, yes, I would imagine they're gone.
Let's jump over to Marlon, who says, is it fair to say that TJ has turned into our closer? He's not wrecking games, but when the game is on the line, everyone knows it's not if, but when.
Yeah, I think TJ's been the closer, but yeah, I think he is. I think you're right there. I mean, he's the dude he's the Troy Polamalu, Steelers need a play. Who's going to make it? Well, it's probably going to be TJ. That's what you would sit there on your couch and you'd say, all right, here it is. Here's time for Troy to do something. And then he would do it. And now you're sitting around, all right, it's time for TJ to do something. And then he does it. So I would say yes. I think he's been there, but I would say yes.
Speaking of jerseys and former uniforms, Gage says, will the yellow helmet ever make a comeback?
I hope so, dude. Those are the best helmets. Shout out right there. I would hope so. Again, I don't think so right now. They're stuck on the block numbers in like the 70s because it's the 50 years. But once we get past 2030, I guess we could start talking about the yellow helmets coming back.
Let's jump over to Territorio Steeler, who says, "Hey Noah, you've said that you really like Carson Beck. What do you think now that he came out saying he doesn't watch football?"
Yeah, I think I'm eating my words on the Carson Beck thing. I think every week that goes by, I watch Georgia football and go, oh, man, dude, I was really supporting that guy at the beginning of the season here. Not playing very well. Carson Beck is not playing very well. Should have lost to Georgia Tech. Absolutely nonsense that they lost that game. Absolute nonsense. I don't think I'd be drafting Carson Beck right now. Not in the first round if I was the Steelers. I think there are other options. And the fact that he doesn't watch football, I mean, there have been like it's more the Snapchat reveals, which I don't know if these are real, but do you see them? Have you seen the trending Carson Beck Snapchats where he's like sending snaps and they're getting like screenshotted by people where he's like, man, what I would do to get out of football practice right now and stuff. And you're just like, ugh, that's a quarterback, dude. That ain't great. So I'm going to admit I'm eating my words on the Carson Beck thing.
Let's go over to Samuel, who says, does Mike T pull Pickens aside before the game and have that keep your composure discussion?
I think so, but it did not work against Cincinnati. So I don't know if it works. Like I thought it was awesome that they showed that at Hard Knocks, but I mean, he got 2 penalties well after that talk. So I don't think it necessarily works. I'm sure Mike Tomlin and George Pickens have had dozens of conversations about keeping his composure and what he needs to do. It's on George. It's not on anybody else at this point. It's just on George.
Let's go to DKB17, who says, could you see Chris Olave as a potential trade target for the Steelers next offseason? The Saints are bad and have no money, and he's going into the last year of a rookie contract.
Yeah, so I could see that being a possibility, definitely. What are you going to pay him is a big question. I don't know what his market value is because I don't really watch a ton of Saints football. But if his market value is good, if you could pay him for, pretty reasonable deal for a guy that's still an up-and-comer, I would imagine the Pittsburgh Steelers could make a phone call. Yeah, I think the Saints are going to be looking to clean house after the season and just say, screw it, dude. We've tried for years. It's not happening. It's time to get a coach in here, start over, and see what we can do. I would imagine Chris Olave is on the trade block as one of those pieces, especially because you could probably still get a 3rd-round pick for Chris Olave, and that's pretty good compensation. I could see the Steelers making that move, definitely. I think that's certainly a good name for them to consider.
Shout out to all of our international listeners. We got a couple here that are checking in. First, let's go to Thomas, who says, hey, Noah, first time keying in from Sydney, Australia. Do you think the Steelers could possibly land Deebo Samuel this offseason? I've heard rumors that he could be out from San Fran.
Dude, shout out. The craziest part about this, Thomas, is that I was talking to Jeff Hathorn today for probably a half hour or so about Australia, and he has some stepchildren, and then one of his actual kids is over there who all attend school like in Australia and New Zealand, which I mean became my new goal in life for my kids to go overseas for school, so I have somewhere cool to go visit. But it's just super crazy that this happened today. I would say Deebo Samuel is a possibility. The problem there is that he's a lot of money and he's not playing well. And like, he's out in San Francisco because the San Francisco 49ers, they have to go a different direction. And because of that, I mean, is he worth the $28 million that you're going to have to pay him next season? I don't think so. I think the Steelers would probably agree with me. He will be available for them. I would agree on that one. Will they pursue him? I think they'll look other routes before they go Deebo Samuel. Doesn't mean they won't make a phone call if nothing else works out, but I don't think he'll be their top choice.
Let's go over to Reaper God, who says, do you think there's going to be an ejection on Sunday? By the way, I will be attending this game coming from Germany and going to get some permanis after the game.
Shout out, dude. I hope you enjoy it. If you're a heartburn guy like I am, stock up on those Tums, man. That coleslaw and those fries on top of that meat. Whew, gets you every time. But worth it. Well worth it. If there was going to be a game where an ejection happens, I would not be surprised if it's this one. I don't know where it would come from, But Greg Newsome, George Pickens fighting like they did at the end of the game, if it happened during the game, they're one of them at least is out. And I would imagine both of them are out because the NFL's got a target on George Pickens' back. So I would say I would say if I had to guess if there was going to be a game in the NFL where an ejection happens, this is definitely going to be the one because there's just so much smack talk going on.
Now, we talked about this yesterday, but I just want to say this screen name and have it up on the screen, so we're going to go to it anyway. Kneecap biting with the Motor City Lions says T. Higgins will be a free agent. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are fantastic username. Yeah, I like T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins would be a great one. We talked in depth about that yesterday. I'm a big T. Higgins guy. Been a big T. Higgins guy. I think he's got a ton of potential to be like a really good number 2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if him and George Pickens could play together and you could figure out the financials there, I mean, that's massive for a guy like Russell Wilson, who has 2 big bodies who could go out and catch some footballs. I think it would be great. I'm a big T. Higgins guy in free agency, and I think the Steelers, I would imagine the Steelers go after him, at least try to see if they can negotiate.
Let's go back to Reaper God, who says, can you recommend the Danger Russ sandwich at Permanis? Have you had that yet? I haven't.
I have not, actually. I have not, but I should give it a shot. I got a box of nobody tell the PR team at Dose. What's the taco place what's the taco stuff that TJ Watt is sponsored by? The normal taco stuff.
Yeah, like Old El Paso or something.
Old El Paso. Nobody tell the PR department there because I 100% was supposed to post the video like a week ago. Never did, but I got there like a cinnamon toast crunch taco box or whatever. They sent me it, and it was fantastic. I don't know if the Dangerous is also going to be fantastic, but I think a taste test video might have to be in the works. My wife is at a Christmas party tonight, an office Christmas party. I, as you can imagine, said, no thanks, pal. I'm good, dude. So would you go to an office Christmas?
No, I'm just saying this is perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect time. I'm walking right down the street. I'm going to Manny's. We might get a video tonight.
Let's go over to Egyptian Roughneck, who checks in. Appreciate you as always. Says, sup, Noah and Nick. I'm officially in Pittsburgh. What a city this is.
That's awesome. I hope you enjoy it, dude. Hit the Strip tomorrow morning. It's always a blast. That's the spot. You know, it's as touristy as it gets, but it's like super authentic Pittsburgh. You are going to have billion little shops that sell nothing but Steelers and Pirates and Penguins clothes. Good food down there. Get some Allegheny Coffee Company coffee, some good stuff. You know, enjoy it. But I definitely hope you enjoy it, my friend.
Let's jump over to Gage, who says, what are the odds that Jameis Winston throws a pick 6 on Sunday?
Good. Good. Very good. I mean, throwing a pick is almost a guarantee. Pick 6 is what it comes down to. You just got to hope that your guys are faster than their guys. I would say the odds are high that Jameis Winston throws a pick 6 on Sunday.
Let's go to DKB17, who says, if money wasn't an issue, would you like to keep Najee long-term, or are you ready to move on to Jalen as our running back 1?
I think I'm torn there. I'm very interested to see what Jalen Warren could do as a running back 1. That being said, I'm well aware that it's a risk to do so. Like it's not guaranteed he's going to work out as a starting running back. And at that point, maybe you made a mistake because I think Najee Harris is a starting running back. He's a good quality running back. But I'm very intrigued to see what Jalen could do, which in essence like makes the money part of it good, because I want Jalen to get an opportunity to kind of show himself as a running back 1. This one would be tough. I think I would lean giving Jalen a shot, but I would very much so acknowledge that comes with some massive risk, and that it doesn't mean that Najee is worse or that I expect Najee to be worse. I think Najee has an opportunity to be better on a different team than he even is in Pittsburgh, and I think he's a starting running back in Pittsburgh.
Speaking of that, Carl says, what are your thoughts about moving Jalen to a 1 and then bringing in Nick Chubb to supplement him?
I mean, could you imagine an offseason where the Steelers signed Nick Chubb and T. Higgins? I mean, nuts. No. Absolutely, positively nuts. But I mean, it would be incredible. Nick Chubb is still an absolute monster. Don't care what anybody says. Dude's a freak. All the respect in the world. I mean, I would love it. I think it would be awesome.
Let's jump over to Egyptian Roughneck again, who says, here's a what if, Noah. How would you feel about signing Derrick Henry if Najee went elsewhere?
Who wouldn't sign Derrick Henry? Who wouldn't sign Derrick Henry? That's the easiest question in the book. Derrick Henry is an absolute freak. He remains a freak. It's crazy how this guy just is still just as good. Like there hasn't been a step down. There hasn't even been a minor step down. There hasn't been any forecasting of Derrick Henry is getting old. No. And I'm sure that it's going to come at some point, but he is a freak in nature. And until he does fall off, I will work and live with the mindset that he is beating Father Time. So I would be all about that. That would be awesome.
Let's jump over to, oh, by the way, Derrick Henry does have one more year.
Yeah, I knew that.
So there's a potential out, but something tells me the Ravens aren't going to take that out.
Yeah.
Let's go to Unlimited Moonballs, who says, if Pitt wins out, Russ should steal the 2024 MVP.
Dude, I'm sorry. But and nobody's going to like this one, but Saquon is the MVP. There are no questions about it. I don't care if the Steelers went out and Russ throws for 70 touchdowns in the next 5 weeks. Saquon is the best player in football. He has made the Eagles nearly unbeatable. It's Saquon, man. It's Saquon. And I hate to disagree with this because I would love to see Russ do it. I would love to see Russ pull it off and prove that he's the best quarterback outside of Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. And he's this dude and the Denver Broncos could eat it. And you know what I mean? I would love to watch it all happen. But Saquon's the MVP.
Let's go over to Axel Snappers, who has a Penguins question. Says,
hey,
going to the Pens game Saturday before the Steelers game on Sunday. What a weekend. Says, where can I get some good Pens gear and what do I get?
Nick?
I mean, if you want something cheaper, but you're also going to get cheaper quality, you go to the Strip District. Mm-hmm. If you want something good quality, your probably best bet is to stick at the arena, and you can't go wrong with anything with an 8 and a 7 on it. It's kind of hard to go against that one.
Yes. I think in hockey, that's the easy answer. Is just like go with the legend because it'll last. That's the thing. Hockey jerseys, like you could wear a Sidney Crosby jersey for the next 80 years and you'll be okay. Like it'll be socially acceptable.
Let's finish it off with Richard Hunt, who has a winter sports question. Says, fellas, when going down a mountain, what do we enjoy more, skiing or tubing?
I'm a tubing guy. Used to be a snowboarding guy. Blew my knee out real bad. And since then I haven't gotten back on a snowboard. So I would say tubing. Would be down to try some skiing, but I just don't know anybody who skis out here.
Yeah, if it's between skiing or snowboarding, I'll stick to snowboarding because I know I can actually do that.
Yeah.
But tubing is always a fun time. You can't not have a great time tubing as long as you're with a decent group of people.
Even if you're not, it's still a good time.
Even if you're not. I mean,
even if you're not, it's still a good time. Yeah, tubing is where it's at. So shout out Richard Hunt. There's some good tubing spots up in Scranton.
That's a wrap for this one then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back on Monday to recap Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns. Don't forget about the walkover pregame as I head to Acrisure Stadium. Enjoy another beautiful weekend in the Berg. Peace.